Hello, everybody, and welcome to Commodity Culture, where our goal is to make you a better investor in the commodities space. My name is Jesse Day, and as always, standard disclaimer, nothing here is investment advice. Do your own due diligence. And today's guest is the CEO of Sierra Madre Gold and Silver, a precious metals development company focused on restarting the La Guitarra gold and silver mine in Mexico. It's Alex Langer. Great to have you on the show.
Hi, Jesse. Wonderful to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Yes, excited to have you on. And before we dive into Sierra Madre, I would like to start by discussing the gold and silver sector from a macro perspective. Starting with gold, I'm wondering at this point in time, what are the main catalysts and drivers you see for the gold sector? You can take this in any direction you'd like.
Yeah, I know that's a big question for sure. I think for gold, the main price drivers right now are definitely the U.S. interest rates, also the strength of the U.S. economy, the U.S. dollar, bond yields. Those are really the three main factors as it stands right now. But that really all hinges on the strength of the U.S. economy and global trade. Should we see, data surprises, one way or other, that usually moves the price of gold. So if it goes down, that should be quite positive. Also, there are some seasonality issues with gold. We usually see it kind of drop early, towards the late quarter one, also into quarter two, and then it always picks up towards the end of the year. So I think we're seeing a little bit of that right now. Also, today's pricing, gold is doing really, really well. If we talked about, gold being over $2,000, and it's been here for the last few months. So, long term, I'm quite bullish, and I think at these prices, things are looking quite positive for gold as it stands right now.
Yeah, I think a lot of gold bugs out there sometimes expect too much. And when we look at the fact that 2000 is kind of more of a base where it used to be a resistance for the gold price, that is hugely positive, especially in the face of real positive interest rates. Now, I would like to shift to gold miners specifically as well here. Obviously, an area you find yourself in, and we're seeing very low valuations in comparison with the metal itself, particularly when we look at the juniors. Why do you think that is, and what do you think it will take to bridge that gap in valuations?
Yeah, that's a good point. Like if you look at the Dow or the S&P, they're doing really well. People have made quite a bit of money. It's not just gold miners; it's a lot of the miners that have really struggled. It's honestly been abysmal, to be honest, for the last little while here. A couple of reasons. One is obviously cost overruns on a capex. So we've seen some capex numbers that have been blown out. That really doesn't help the miners as a whole. Exploration risk. So this is high risk, kind of high reward type of investment. And, interest rates are extraordinarily high right now. So you're seeing a lot of capital sitting on the sidelines, getting 6, 7, 8, 9% in terms of interest rates and not really using that risk capital for the time being, just because, the returns are so good on the interest side. I think once interest rates start to come down, which they will, we're expecting, I think, 3 drops this year, we're going to start to see some of that capital migrate from, high yield accounts back into higher risk type investments, such as gold miners and things like that. Other things that could bridge the gap, obviously, is going to be, the increase in price of gold, lower U.S. dollar value, lowering bond yields, as I mentioned, in terms of interest rates, and also a bit of M&A activity. I think once M&A starts to pick up again in the sector with strong valuations, this could be another strong driver. I know there's a number of majors out there that are looking. You'll see a lot of the inventories are getting lower in some of the larger producers. So once those inventories start to dry up and they start to acquire some of these mid-tier or even exploration assets, I think that would be a really good boon for the sector as well.
And let's shift over to silver for a moment now, because, yeah, this is a metal that seems to be either hated or loved at present. Overall, investor sentiment is quite low. You've got, obviously, you had the silver squeeze movement, which I think got a lot of people involved who were very emotional about it and figured that the price of silver was going to go to the moon. There was going to be a repeat of the Hunt Brothers episode. We were headed to $50. And now I think a lot of those people are disappointed and thinking of throwing in the towel. And overall, investors are tired of being told to be patient, because that's always the message when it comes to silver. Because, 2010 into 2011 was really the last time that silver moved up in a significant way. So I'm wondering, given that, setting the stage, what are your thoughts on the silver sector as we sit here today?
Yeah, no, that's a very fair comment. We saw the little run up because of the silver squeeze, which is good. I think it just goes to show that when silver does have a run, it really propels. It's quite exciting. I'm a little bit more bullish, I would say, on silver for sure. I think just the fundamentals are quite positive. The Silver Institute is forecasting 1.2 billion ounce silver demand for 2024. That's the second largest demand for silver in the history of the world, which is great. That's largely now being driven by strong industrial demand. Um, that's being led again on the industrial side by solar panels, which makes up about 20% of that use, and also the EV thematic. So as more EVs are produced, there's quite a bit of silver within electric vehicles. There's also silver now being used in aeronautics and space exploration. So silver is not only just a store of value, it's also used industrial. And that's really what I like about silver. It's kind of a 50-50 mix as it stands right now. Store of value, jewelry, things like that, which is great, but also the industrial use, which is continuing to rise. So for 2024, we're going to have about a 15% deficiency in silver, which is a pretty big number. So, when I started this company, Sierra Madre, there really wasn't much of an investable silver story. So that's one of the reasons why I did it. I wanted something that could grow through early stage exploration and development, and also grow through production and increase ounces and build something up. While I was at Canaccord, I was fortunate enough to do the IPOs or be part of the IPOs for Endeavour Silver and Fortuna Silver. It's the same type of thing. Silver wasn't, hugely loved at the time. I think it was trading around $4 an ounce up to $8 an ounce. But I saw both these companies that IPO'd at 10 cents make their way up to NASDAQ with highs of, 12 US dollars. So when silver really goes, it is pretty amazing. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I started this company and why I believe in it.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the silver mining sector in particular. You mentioned you IPO'd some pretty notable silver miner names. How do you view the overall health of the sector right now? Because we were talking about gold miners earlier. Obviously, silver mining is another sector where valuations are considered very low, particularly when we look at all the fundamental aspects you discussed. Do you think this is a time maybe where the silver miners look very attractive from a valuation standpoint?
I completely agree. It can be seen right now as a leverage play on silver. It's inexpensive to get in. Opportunities like this usually don't happen all that often outside of the broader market, such as yields and things like that. But upside potential from operations. And just the increase in silver price is pretty interesting. The low sentiment towards a metal, has also led to a shortage of small to mid-sized production stories, which is again one of the reasons why I started Sierra Madre Gold and Silver. At the time, there really wasn't much of an investable silver story. Again, something similar to First Majestic or an Endeavour Silver or Fortuna Silver, same type of thing. So there was an opportunity, and I didn't see one out there that I was comfortable investing in at the time. So I built it, and that's kind of the possibility and the optionality we do have at Sierra Madre.
Yeah, and keeping with the sentiment side of things there, I spoke to Rick Rule not too long ago, and he has called silver roundly hated. He said it's making him very greedy. The last time silver was this hated in his career, he made a ton of money. So I'm wondering if you think silver presents a contrarian opportunity right now for those willing to go against the pack. And obviously, you have to be able to stomach volatility to play in the silver mining space, particularly with the juniors. Would you say that's fair?
I completely agree with that. Yeah, silver investment is definitely a contrarian view right now. So there is that huge upside, and again, the opportunity given the strong fundamentals, the increase in usage in solar panels and EVs, also the underperformance compared to gold. I think is something to be mindful of. There's usually the gold silver ratio, and there's been a disconnect. I don't think it's been this high in a long time, kind of 82-1, and it's been on record it's closer to 60-70-1. So there is that gap as well that could catch up relatively quickly as well. So as interest rates come down, hopefully that gap between the gold silver ratio comes down as well.
Well, let's shift specifically to Sierra Madre Gold and Silver. And for those unfamiliar with the company, maybe you could start by giving us an overview.
Yeah, absolutely. Sierra Madre Gold and Silver is a development company focused on the restart of the fully permitted La Guitarra silver and gold mine. It's located about 2 hours outside of Mexico City, so an excellent location. We acquired the project fully about 10 months ago, and we've been aggressively pushing towards production ever since.
And you've got a checklist which includes infrastructure, jurisdiction, permitted, and past production. These are the four key points. And also know-how in Mexico. So there's five. Could you walk us through each of those and let us know what gives you the confidence to check them off?
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever I take a look at a company or a project, even as an investor, it's really important to kind of work your way through and de-risk the project. And, a lot of these things are high risk. So you want to minimize, your exposure in terms of investing. So if you can have a checklist, whether it's a company or a project, it's always important to do these things. So for instance, with Sierra Madre, obviously infrastructure, we're tied into the grid. We're 2 hours from Mexico City. There's ample water. There's a workforce, 6, 7 kilometers away. It is a past producing mine. It shut down in 2018. So you have a real benefit there of infrastructure. So you kind of check that off. In terms of jurisdiction, Mexico is the largest producer of silver in the world. So if you want to, be a silver miner, it's kind of where you want to be. There has been some issues in Mexico over the last little while in terms of governmental change and getting new permits and things like that could be quite difficult. So we consciously went after a project a number of years ago that would be fully permitted. So we are grandfathered in. And so in terms of permitting risk, we are past that. Again, we're fully permitted. If we decided to, we could start production tomorrow, which is great. There's no limit on throughput. First Majestic did an incredible job in terms of the permitting and community relations with La Guitarra. They have a full team working through water treatment and engaging with the community and keeping the permits up to date, which is great. So again, another one of those checkpoints, permitting, which could be huge, is being checked off the list. Past production. So that really minimizes your future risk. We know our metallurgy inside and out. We know our capital costs inside and out. We know how much it costs to treat an ounce of silver. We know our labor costs. We've actually recently signed an agreement with the local union when they were last operating in 2018. It's a 10% raise. And it's just straight across the board. Reagent prices have gone up a little bit, but energy costs are actually down. Energy is subsidized in Mexico. So we know our inputs inside and out. Usually a company at this stage would probably do a pre-feasibility, then a feasibility, then a definitive feasibility, then a bankable definitive feasibility. And that takes many, many years and costs millions and millions of dollars. So we get to really bypass that, which is a huge benefit for us. So past production really minimizes the risk moving forward. And finally, know-how in Mexico. Fortunately enough, I got pretty comfortable in Mexico during my time at Canaccord, but everything we're doing is really led by my technical team. And it's a gentleman named Greg Liller. Greg is an exploration geologist by training, but he's ran and operated numerous mines. He's actually had 7 projects that he's been a part of that have actually become mines, which is truly unheard of. You do it once or twice, be lucky, but 7 times is amazing. Now, one of those 7 mines just happened to be the La Guitarra mine complex. So he knows the project inside and out. We've been fortunate enough to bring on, our chief geologist, director of exploration development, Louis Science, who actually spent about 7 years at La Guitarra. So he's kind of moved on full time. He lives in the area. We have about another half a dozen people that were with Greg and Luis during that time. So we have an intimate knowledge of the mine. Greg did about 100,000 meters of drilling at the mine. They ran the production, they modernized the facility. So we're very, very comfortable with Mexico and in particular the La Guitarra mine. So again, another checkpoint that we kind of checked off there.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's dive a little deeper into La Guitarra. What have you accomplished there so far? What are your future plans for the project? Do you have a timeline for production? And is this project set to produce more silver or gold? What's the ratio there?
Yeah, so I'll answer the ratio question first. It's about 60-40 at today's value. So when we talk about the mine, I do talk about it as a silver mine, silver dominant. The silver and gold will come out in the same concentrate, which is relatively straightforward. But in terms of the value of the metal per 1 ton of ore that we could possibly be getting, it's about 60% silver, 40% gold. So you get it both, which is good. Again, kind of de-risks from the market. Say gold does a run and silver stays, well, that number will change, and vice versa. Silver does run, then more value would come from the silver side of things. So as I mentioned, we did acquire the project fully in May of 2023, so just over a year ago. Having said that, we have been at site for well over a year while we were doing the due diligence and working with First Majestic to acquire the mine. We've been at site for quite a while. First thing we did was re-audit the underground and work through the historic databases of drilling. There's been over 236,000 meters of drilling at La Guitarra, which is an incredible amount. So what we had to do is get all those assay sheets, recheck it all, audit the underground, figure out what areas had been mined, what it hadn't, overlay all the drill hole database, drill holes into that information, come with new shells, new pit designs. It came out with an updated NI 43-101. So that was really a massive catalyst for the company. We increased measured and indicated by 367%. So now a total, I guess, global resource of close to 50 million ounces of silver. That's in all categories, is huge. So in essence, it pretty much tripled what was there before. And that was without doing any further drilling, but really going through all the databases and spending quite a bit of money and time to do that. So that was the huge first catalyst that we did, and that's come out. Since then, we've been busy. We are pushing towards production quite quickly. The next major catalyst is going to be our mine plan. So we're working on a mine plan right now that should be completed end of quarter one, maybe into early quarter two, so a few months away. That's really important. It's going to tell us we're going to be mining from week to week, month to month. It's one thing that once you start production, you never want to fall behind on production because the market absolutely kills you. So we're going to walk before we run. We're going to start at probably 350 tons per day, move that up to 500, which is commercial production level. And because the resource now is so large, if you're taking 500 tons per day, close to 50 million ounces. That's many, many, many years of possible production. So we are going to be looking at doubling capacity within a couple of years once we hit commercial production. In terms of timelines, we have guided to the market that if capital is available to us and things go well, we will be in commercial production in quarter one of 2025, so less than a year away. Things are going really well at site. We're starting to repair equipment. We'll have some news on that. We're repaired quite a bit of the underground. We're starting to pull material. Things are moving along very, very, very well. So I think if all goes well, I could see an opportunity where we might even be in production earlier than what we've guided to the market. As long as no hiccups come and as long as cash is available. I know we chatted a little bit earlier that cash could be a little bit difficult to get right now. So we are looking at alternative streams rather than just equity. Our equity pricing is down. Our last raise was about $10 million plus at 65 cents without a warrant. We're currently trading kind of 30 to 35 right now. So issuing equity at these prices is pretty highly dilutive. So we're looking at other things. Maybe it's a royalty, maybe offtake, maybe debt, or a combination of the above. Everything you do is dilutive in terms of that, but I think at this point, non-equity raise is the way we're leading for the time being to complete with the capex of the mine. Now, our expected capex to get back into production is about $6 million US. So not a huge amount. Again, we're really, really fortunate that we have so much infrastructure there. There's about 40 kilometers of underground available to us. The mill itself is in amazing shape, as well as the drill hole database, mining equipment. So we have starting with a lot of value here. So be able to get in production for $6 million US approximately is a pretty exciting opportunity.
Great overview. And I wanted to dive a little bit more into your background as well, because you've touched on it a little bit earlier, but let us know your own background in the metals and mining industry and how this whole project together, what it is that attracted you about this project and made you get involved with the company.
Yeah, it's a good question. So I guess myself, I come from a capital markets background. As I mentioned, I was at Canaccord. I left there in 2009. And since then, I've focused on, founding companies, helping companies on the capital needs, putting together management teams, finding projects, and really kind of pushing them forward. So, a couple companies I've been involved with. One recently was Millennial Lithium. I was vice president there kind of from the beginning to the end. We started with the lithium brine project in Argentina and actually sold that for $490 million to Lithium Americas exactly 2 years ago. I was also part of a company called Prime Mining, a very similar technical team that we have at Sierra Madre. Again, we started that around 30 cents and now it's trading, 200, 300 million market cap. So we've been quite fortunate to have a number of successes here. I'm also the president and founder of a company called Lift Power, which has a really large scale lithium spodumene project in the Northwest Territories. Again, we started that at a couple bucks and hit a high of 16 last year. And now a 250 million market cap. So quite fortunate that I work with some really good people and been fortunate enough to have some good projects. In terms of Sierra Madre, again, I was really looking for an investable silver story out there, something that could grow through, whether it was acquisition or ounces in the ground and de-risking through production. And that story, that thematic really appeals to me. So I've been been building it all the way through. So when the opportunity to acquire La Guitarra came to us, something that was fully permitted, that our technical team had, history with, it really seemed like a no-brainer. Beyond the development and production profile that we will have, it is a really large exploration area. We're really excited about the potential to continue to explore the area. We've now found about 53 kilometers of potential strike length material at surface, whether it's veining or breccia within our concession. So we do want to use cash flows to go explore the area. We're fortunate enough that First Majestic kind of believes in our vision and agreed to kind of let us run with the project. They are by far our largest shareholder. They do own 47.7% of Sierra Madre Gold and Silver. They took all shares in the transaction. They really do like this mine, and they've been excellent with us. So in terms of the mine itself, these opportunities don't come along very, very often. You kind of have to be lucky and aggressive at the same time. And I think we hit both the nails on the head there.
Insider ownership in the company is also quite high, 21%. Always great to see skin in the game from management. Investors love to see that. How important is that to the company, and will management be looking to buy more shares in the future?
It's so important. Like in terms of the checklist you had mentioned earlier, put on my investor hat, to see management have that much skin in the game is pretty astounding. You want to be aligned, I feel, with the management. If they have a track record of success, like Greg's had multiple M&A transactions, I've had a couple. So we understand the value of equity and investing our own equity. 21% is actually a little bit low. I think it's quite a bit higher, probably approaching 24-25% in terms of management and founders. If you look at the insider reports, I think I'm all over it. I've purchased about 700,000 Canadian worth of stock kind of since the fall, and I bought some, it was last week or the week before. So I truly believe in what we're doing and what we're building, and I can promise you anything moving forward, management founders will continue to be a big, big part of that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Alex, for coming on the show. I will put a link to Sierra Madre in the description below, both the website and social media, so people can check it out, and really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing all your knowledge with the audience.
Jesse, I really enjoy this. So anytime you want me on, it doesn't have to be talking about Sierra Madre, but any markets or anything like that, always happy to chat. Thank you again.
Commodity Culture is a series on commodities and natural resources. If you would like to see more, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification so you're always up to date with the latest episodes.